Welcome to the Blackburn Ed podcast. The season is upon us. It seems like only yesterday that we were starting our summer break with a lot of what ifs, and now we can all get excited as the squad's had its refresh, the kits are nice and new, and the fan base is all positive. Okay, well, maybe not that last part, but we'll move on. So, Rovers pre-season ends with a 3-1 loss, but as a whole, I think the results and the performances remain positive. Callum Britain exits Ewood for an undisclosed fee to Middlesbrough. The revolving door keeps on turning as Lewis Miller joins at right back and Axel Henriksson is another body in midfield. It looks like Ismaël, is being backed with signings rumoured to total around the £5 million mark, with more being linked, with one now being Miyoshi, probably another name I'm going to butcher. Does this mean that we can get off the owners' backs? I'm not too sure just yet, but we'll discuss that as well. And also, we have our annual predictions. There's obviously a lot to break down this week as we prepare to face West Brom. But Mark, is the squad prepared? But more importantly, are you prepared for this new season?
Well, I don't know if I'm prepared for a bumper pod. I mean, I thought we were going to be introduced as, what was it, Sam Smith and Morby, as the Birmingham fans so kindly referred to us as. Wait till they see where I've put them in the predictions, then they will be having a pop. Yeah, I think I'm ready for the season now. I'm going to be honest, I'm not absolutely at the point where I can't wait and I'm overcome with excitement, but I wasn't this time last year either. I didn't know what I was going to expect, and I think that could be something similar. So, we've got some new faces to see. So let's see how we get on.
Well, exactly. We've got a lot that we need to talk about, and we need to apologise for the sound issues last week. We're not sure what happened. We do try and do like a bit of a spot check of quality before it goes out, and it just had that little bit which was dodgy. Hopefully, this one is going to be fine. But we would like to apologise in advance because we're both absolutely knackered. I think we're both running off like 4 hours sleep combined. So we're slurring our words. We're not drunk. We're just absolutely knackered. But we wanted to get something out there before the season actually does start. But before we do that, we need to talk about pre-season. Now, there were some good performances in there as a team, as individuals. My mate Augustus, he was the one that was the star for me of pre-season, someone that did show some glimpses. Who else for you showed these glimpses?
I think Toth continued where he left off, just doing nothing wrong, looking at a nice steady pair of hands. You kind of, I don't really notice him, and I'd like that to remain that way till the end of the season, really. But Scott Wharton stood out for me. I think I didn't know what to expect from Scott Wharton. I didn't even know if he'd play very much in pre-season, whether he'd be ready to get a few minutes or whether he would be getting 90 minutes at any point. And I thought the way he's actually probably put himself in line for a starting position this weekend, in my eyes, it is a real credit to him. It really is.
Yeah, we said that we was worried. I mean, me and you, to peek beyond the curtain, we'd actually had a conversation straight after he'd come on against Stanley, and you said he looked off it. He looked a little bit, worn, let's say, and I agreed. And he was one player that we was worried about. And going back to when he was actually playing and fully fit, he was always a player I was concerned about. He didn't seem to really play how I felt like we needed to play. He was just a solid player that could come on and be an extra number. But he has improved, and whether he's just hungry now and he's got something now to fight for, and that's really helped him up his game, I don't know. But yeah, I definitely agree. He was one of the ones to show that he could actually be part of this squad.
Yeah, and I think in terms of pre-season, I was very positive about it until after the NEC game. I thought Cardboard came on against NEC and changed the second half, and actually Gay looked a bit of a threat with him too. But up until then, I've been really impressed with the way that we've started games, the way that we've controlled the games, the way that he wants to play has been quite clear. And for me, Todd Cantwell's had an outstanding pre-season. and then he goes and misses a game, and you think, oh, here we go. This is Todd Cantwell. I thought the way that he was slotting into that 10 role, more central, further forward, quickening the play up, was something I was really excited about. Then he misses a game, and we bring in, Axel. I'm wanting to call him Axel Rose, but we bring in Axel Henriksen, and it looks like he's a number 10 who, all right, albeit he's played 65 professional games, and he's got 20 odd goals and a few assists. But you do worry because Cantwell's numbers are not good enough. But he said that himself. So yeah, I think the game against NEC overall worried me. I thought we looked too easy to be carved open. And our worry going into the season is if it's not working when you lay the ball in behind for Ohashi, what else do we do? And without Cantwell, it looked quite worrying. I think he's a real key cog in this team, and I'm not so certain I can rely on him just yet for various reasons.
I don't mind losing a game in pre-season, and when it's the last one, you don't know whether you want it to be that you go in on a high and after a win where confidence is high, but when you've won all these games and you've put in some solid performances, actually to have a humbler might be, I'm not sure humbler is a word, but I'm going to use it anyway, to actually get people focused and actually say, okay, well, maybe we're not ready. Maybe we do need to step it up. So it can work one of two ways. I'd like it to be that we put in a performance that was probably better than it was. But we can make lots of excuses, but I'm not going to read into the last game too much. It's going to be a very difficult game to go to West Brom that are touted to be one of the better teams in the EFL next year. It's going to be away. I haven't looked into their pre-season in much detail. You've obviously put a video out there, which I want everyone to pause this, go watch that, and come back and carry on with this podcast. But I feel like we're as ready as we can be right now, because there's been a lot of change that's happened over pre-season, and there's a lot of players gone. There's been a lot of turmoil in the squad, and to actually put in some performances and have some of the new players come in and show their worth, and some of the players that we had last year, like your Cargbos, that they were a raw talent, but they were kind of under the microscope a little bit. For them to put in the performances, I think is really good. Deneve was one that he showed that he had the instincts to come into the box with his goal against Everton. So there's a lot of little things that happened, and I completely agree with you. Toth was one that stepped up. There was some real solid play. Now he's got to carry on with that. But I think there was a lot of bright moments that we can focus on, because as much as we finished the season positively, as just being out of the playoffs, there was a lot of negativity around the changes around the squad and what had to be done, and players leaving and contracts not being signed. And we were some of the ones that obviously was out there saying that we was disappointed. But to get these performances and start to see some things changing, I think we can be starting the season a little bit happier than we thought we'd be.
Yeah, completely. I think we've said last year as well that we will really judge Ismaël now, like we did with Eustace. I think that's only fair. He's had a full pre-season. He's had a full pre-season with the bulk of his squad, albeit losing Callum Britain's a massive blow because he is a massive part of that squad. I think when I've seen West Brom under Ismaël, which is the last team that, I know he was at Watford, but the last team that comes to mind going into a season, they absolutely tore us apart that first game of the season. And I see shoots of that in pre-season, if I'm being honest. And yeah, during the preview, Chris from Albion Analysis, who used to work for West Brom, so some of the stuff he puts out there is really good stuff. He's not a massive fan of Ismaël, but he does fear that we will be a lot quicker off the mark than they will, both in the game and just in terms of being the first game of the season. So I've I'm going on Saturday and I'm going full of hope, if I'm being honest. And I think we just take it game by game, not in terms of an old cliche, but I think we have to just be ready for the next game. And right now, I think we're as ready as we can be for that first game of the season.
Yeah, I think so. And there have been a lot of changes, and I, for one, have been quite vocal with the frustrations that we've had. We've tried to have our business head on, football business head. We've had our football head on as well, and it's very hard to really come down one side or the other whether I'm happy or not with certain situations. We'll move on to the positives, and that is the new signings first before we talk about the negative of Callum Britain leaving. So Lewis Miller's the one that joins for a rumoured £800,000. He's Australian, 24-year-old right back, 3-year deal, plus an option as well, which is great. Apparently he's got this raw physical ability, which is great. He's a good age. He's saying all the right things in his interview. He seems very positive. He seems like he's a real big personality as well. I think he said something like, when Ismaël talks, you listen because he's a big bloke. You know, all these nice little things that you're hearing that you would want in a changing room. It's like a Bradley Dack kind of character. Can you see something there in him that is a positive signing?
Yeah, I mean, speaking to Hibs fans, he can play centre half as well. They said he does struggle when he's isolated at right back one-on-one defensively, which, yeah, it sounds like a massive issue, but the way we play our right back, they're that far forward anyway, it's not a massive issue. He's another bloke who's 6'2", 6'3", and we've talked about, you particularly, I think, have talked about this for a couple of years, how there's not many players that you're that scared of. Well, you look at our tunnel now, and there's a lot of players above 6 foot. Apparently, you know, his main sport when he was younger was basketball, and he's got a weapon of a throw, something we've not had for a long time. So there's little things that I think are starting to come into our game. It sounds like he could be like a tackle. And I watched his training session, and like Cogball went in 2-footed on him and didn't look too happy with him. So I don't know what had happened before that, but he's going to play how he trains, or train how he plays. So there'll probably be a red card knocking around. I think he's going to be more of a Lucas Neal than a Brett Emerson, yeah.
Yeah, you can tell he's got that character about him, that he's got an edge. I mean, my concerns were that, I mean, I've said before about the SPL, I'm not a fan of it. I don't think many people really, I don't want to say don't respect it or anything, but it's not up there in the leagues where you would want to be picking players out. So there are slight concerns that this is kind of a step up. I'm a harsh in saying that it would be a step up playing some of the opposition that he's going to be playing now.
I don't think that's harsh at all. I thought it was quite interesting, his interview with Rovers, and they said to him, you know, he was talking about how this is a massive club, and he walked in the building, or went to walk in the building, and the people were there with the cameras, and he knows the history of the club, and he knows lots about the club, and he looked genuinely delighted to be there, like it was a step up. But also they asked him about the football, and he said, I think it's kind of equates to the SPL in terms of the fact that it's 100 miles an hour and you don't get time on the ball. But he did sort of hint that he thinks it's a bit of a step up as well. So I think it certainly is, even just in terms of sheer number. So in the SPL, obviously, you've got 2 teams there that will possibly be lower Premier League, upper Championship. Then you've got 4 or 5 that would struggle to get in the top half of the Championship, and then a few that struggle to get in the top half of League One. You've sort of got the bulk of that, haven't you? With the Championship, it is actually teams that are very competitive. So you've got to be on it 3 times a week. That's one of the other challenges they'll have. You don't play that many games in the SPL either. So, but it looks like somebody, you know, who's played international football. I think we've got Alabiosu as well, who's very raw, but is there as well. So I'm okay with it. I think, you know, I'd rather Callum Britain had stayed in many, many ways, but I'm okay with the signing. I think it is a logical move for us.
Yeah, I want to get onto the Callum Britain thing in just a second, because I think it leads into another part of the conversation. So I don't want to get into too much detail, but it is obvious that with the timing of it all, he is going to be the replacement. He's come in to play and most likely start. Ali Biossu's probably going to be the backup to Lewis Miller. I mean, it's one of these now where we can't compare him to Callum Britain because Callum Britain had a really good season last year. But a lot of people have rightly called out that he was injured and he did have times where he wasn't playing as well. And that, you said yourself that you wouldn't see him as your starting right back. And that was about 18 months ago, I think we talked about that. So, it's not like Callum Britain was this second coming and the greatest right back. It was just he was in form, and last year he had a good year, and this Lewis Miller's now got to come in and try and take that to the next level. Or, well, for me, the success is that we don't miss Callum Britain. I think that's the level of success for me. If Lewis Miller or Ali Biossu come in at right back and they cover that position, and I'm not concerned, for me, it's a success. Another player that's come through the door is Axel Henriksson, again around the £800,000 mark. I don't know what it is with this £800,000 mark that we seem to be looking at, but rumours are it's that with another 800,000 of add-ons. These are just rumours because it's all undisclosed fees. Swedish 23-year-old attacking midfielder, 4-year deal with another option. So it looks like we're trying to give longer contracts to some of these younger players, which is good. He's a great age. Again, he seems passionate. He scored 26, I think, in 82 games in his professional career. A lot of them were in the third tier, but he still scored some in the first tier of Swedish football. He got 6 assists as well. There's lots of potential, but he's tall, and like you was just saying that about that standing in the tunnel. He's 190 centimeters, which is around 6'2", 6'3", something like that. He likes to win the ball back in the final third. He's got great positioning and instincts, and he's very technical. That's just things I'm kind of reading elsewhere and on Twitter, on all social media, and what I'm trying to find out. Have you seen anything else about him that makes it an exciting signing?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen the YouTube clips, and he looks like he will go into a tackle and will win it, but more of akin to a John Buckley when he's timing and he intercepts it, but he's quite slight figure still. I think what I'm seeing with these signings, Mike, is that generally speaking, I know we've not managed to do it with Callum Britain, but Ali Biossu's come in to replace Rankin Costello, and I think he's the one that they see as the long-term better option, actually, when I've spoken to people, but not yet. Cardboard came in, but not to have an immediate impact. Henriksson's coming in, but doesn't have to come and have an immediate impact. He'll sit behind Todd Cantwell, and what a great player to learn from. Tavares, the same. They're talking about Baraggi still. He could be the same. And it may well be, for all we know, that they do see Travis and Tronstad as expendable players, whether we agree or not. But we're bringing in people who don't have to come and have an immediate impact. Callum Britain one's slightly different because he's obviously gone. But I like the fact that we're bringing people. Tyjon, he's in and around it, but doesn't have to have an immediate impact. And that's what I've spoke about for years, is that we have to have the replacement needs to be in the building and needs to have been in the building, settling in, so they're ready to go. I think that's when, forget the Moneyball element, Brentford always had their replacement already in the building. They were looking at, well, this player's going to move on in 6-12 months. Who's coming through? Who's going to be the next one? Have we got someone? No, go and get them in now and get them bedded in. And I think we'll see the benefit of that with Cardboard, for example, now. And hopefully Henriksson will come and make an immediate impact. But if it takes him to January, it takes him until next year, and Cantwell's that man instead, great.
And that's the thing. It's exactly what we was looking for with some depth. When the person comes in, you either want them to have some, as in to replace a player off the bench, or if they just need a rest or they're injured, you want them to have something about them, whether it's potential or whether they're just adding some sort of experience. And I want to go down the potential route a little bit more. I want to get excited about players. I want to know that whoever's coming on could be someone that in a year's time we can get really excited about and they can really slot in and offer something. I completely agree with you. I've actually got a little piece that I'll talk about in just a second about to do with ages. And it is nice to see that we're trying to find some hidden gems, as they say in like your football manager world, is, you know, finding these hidden gems, the ones with potential that actually you can hang your hat on and say, this person has raw ability. If we work with them and we do things properly, they have a long enough contract where we can have a bit of patience about it. And if we have a good cup run, you'll see them. If not, you might see them coming off the bench. And that's nice to see. And they're actually, we're spending money on them, which is nice because it makes us feel like we're trying to invest in the future, which is good.
Yeah.
But let's move on to now the Callum Britain side. So I put something out there. It was called out by a few people. A lot agreed. Some people didn't. And my thing was that I was frustrated with it. Now, the reason I was frustrated was I felt like this was a symbol of where the club was going, that we find someone that actually could take us forward and we're just letting them go. And there was some people that called me out and they said, well, you're never happy when we let a player let their contract go down and leave for free, and you're not happy if we're selling them for money. I get that, right? I understand. I understand football. I understand the business, but this is what I wrote down that I wanted to talk about on the pod, and my views have changed a little bit since, because I've calmed down a little bit. So I said it's about the constant need to rebuild and not just build. I don't mind seeing players leave, but I want us to grow, and these challenges players are looking to have are actually being had with us. The pattern is that instead of surrounding the club with an air of growth, it is in constant change and unease. I can accept players leaving to bigger clubs, but this is not a massive step up. I understand his missus is living up there, but his comments are telling. So that was the first thing I started to write. And then I kind of sat back and I started to think about it a bit more. And I was thinking, am I frustrated because of what it represents? And that is that we've had another player that is someone that can take us to the next level that has left, whether it's for money or not, because there's a pattern that's happened over the years. Now, you can't expect to keep an Armstrong. Brereton was being sniffed around. You had, going back to it, you had your Scott Kearneys and Hanleys and so on and so forth. But it seemed like now we're losing players, not just to the Premier League. We're now losing our better players to just players in the league. And it just seemed like it was another step backwards for us for this to happen. Now, that was my initial thoughts. But then I got to it and I was like, did we want him to go? Did it get to a point where it was like, actually, we want Alibiasu? Like you just said, there's an air around the club that this lad is someone that can move forward. Did we want Lewis Miller? Did we think, well, do you know what? The Moneyball thing, which is what you rightly brought up, we could actually make X amount on Britain. Because what's meant to be the fee? Somewhere between 2 and 3 million, something like that we've got for him.
It's reported to be 3.5 million.
Apparently. Yeah, exactly. Well, there we go. So we've made some money, and is it a case of they've looked at him and gone, do you know what? We can get this. You're not really part of the future because you're 27. You had one good season. There's not necessarily a body behind you that shows that, you know, this is going to be a consistent thing. So I did think, was it all part of the plan? And that's where my brain's been bouncing around with this one. Do you think it was just a case of they saw a fact that they could cash in and just cashed in? Do you think it was all part of the plan not to really offer him the kind of contract he wanted? Or is there a bigger thing behind it? And we're thinking, we want to create a new atmosphere. We want to create this new ethos. We want youth, strength, speed. And he's not fitting this. And the likes of Travis and Tronstad, they're not fitting it either. My brain's been all over the place with it, mate. Help me get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, I think if you take this in isolation, we have got £3.5 million reportedly for our right back, who had a year left on his contract. Even if he didn't have a year left on his contract, I would argue that's not a bad fee either. We might have pushed it up to 4.5. But if someone had come in with £4 million bid, I think he'd have gone whether he'd have had 1 year or 3 years left. £3.5 million, I can accept that. And actually, with a year left, I think given that context, whether we've done that ourselves or not, I think £3.5 million's business you cannot turn down. I do think I agree with you in the sense of he's not going to Ipswich, who are probably going to go back up because they got parachute payments. He's not gone to the Premier League. And that worries me a little bit, that the player's mindset within the building is actually you've got the parachute payment teams. Get my words out in a second. You've got the next rung of teams who are getting 30,000 a week. Derby, Middlesbrough, Birmingham, whoever else, and they are a better bet for promotion, and then us. That worries me, that the player's mindset might be that. But I do think there is an element that the club have set out certain attributes that they want for each position. Now, I think Callum Britain's different to Travis and Trodstad. I think Callum Brittain probably fitted their profile of player. He's an attacking right back. He can deliver. Other than him being 27 and starting to be, he's also at the peak sale age. So I remember when Greg Broughton used to talk about the players would have a peak sale value. He's possibly hit it, certainly with having a year left. So I think at that point you have to cash in and take the emotion out of football. And Rudy Gestede has talked about taking the emotion out of transfers, and you've got to do what makes business sense. I think Brittain, just in terms of his raw abilities and the way he plays, does fit in with our style moving forward. So I think he's slightly different in that sense. But I think he was at his peak saleable element. And you could argue he's not robust enough 2 seasons ago. I know before us, he's never had many injuries. 2 seasons ago, under JDT, he couldn't stay fit. 2 seasons ago. Right, so 3 years ago, he couldn't stay fit. 2 years ago, he managed to play 44 games. Last year, he had 2 spells out, didn't he, and played 30 odd, but looked very good. And we've managed to replace him with a profile of play that we feel we're happy with. Not me, the club. Travis and Tronstad are the ones that I'm leaning towards what you're talking about there. I think there is a deliberate element here where certainly Travis will be the top earner at the club, or one of. So his contract's not going to go down. He's looking for his next big contract. And Tronstad will be wanting something similar, you would imagine. I do think there is an element. I've talked about the physicality worry with Tronstad, and I've talked about Travis, the fact that neither of them bring enough goals-wise, and that there are certain limitations to their games. I think playing together, they complement each other really well, and you'd struggle to find a better pairing in the Championship. But individually, I can see elements where they probably don't tick all the boxes on our data-driven approach, whether you agree with that or not. I do think there is an element of the club here that they think, do you know what, there's 20 grand a week, let's say, at Lewis Travis, and Tronstad wants 20 grand a week. There's no saleable asset there at the end of that next 3-year contract, which is probably what they want. If we can't sell them now, do we need them for a year until Tavares is ready, Baradji, whoever's coming in to replace them, the profile of player they want, Henriksen? We do need them this year, actually, so it's worth keeping them. But we can't reinvest in them again because they don't actually fit our profile. And I do think that might be the case with them. The more I'm coming to this, because it doesn't make logical sense why you wouldn't tie your captain down, and Tronstad looks quite an easy one to tie down. I think that there's actually an element of the club here making a decision themselves to say, not convinced these are the right people moving forward at that level, anyway, in terms of the wages.
Yeah, and I feel like they don't want to be the ones to sell them, because if you sell them, that is probably a symbol of a changing of the guard, which I think we can all see is actually happening.
Yeah, it is. But I also think the problem they've got is like they've had to do with Lewis Miller, they'd have to go and get a direct replacement for now. And that replacement, that is obviously they're not happy with Buckley, they're not happy. Forshaw's not going to start, is he? So where do you go and get a ready centre midfielder from, ready to go? They're going to cost money. And I think they probably have looked at what people would cost and what Travis they would get for him because there's been rumours all summer about Travis. I think they would sell him if they could do a deal that sort of meant they were cost neutral. So they could go and bring in Lewis Travis Mark too. Because I don't think they're probably convinced Tavares is ready to go, Montgomery's ready to go, and they've not got anyone else in the building, really, have they? So I think they are making a business decision and a football decision, yes. I don't think this is just the fact that they're blindly letting these contracts run down.
Yeah, I mean, when it came to the three big players that you think would need the new contracts of Hyam, Tronstad and Travis would probably be the one that I would probably not re-sign, and that could be controversial to say. People say I've said previously that Travis was one that I would quite happily let go, but last season I think he was quite important to us as a leader as well as a player. I can really see him not fitting this new style of play, exactly what you just said. I don't think he does fit it. I don't think he's got enough footballing technical skill to actually play the way that we would probably want him to play. I think he's got a lot of passion. I think he's got a lot of aggression. He knows how to wind players up, which we know. And I think he is a leader, but he just doesn't seem like that Ismaël kind of player, and we don't want to carry a player on those kind of wages. Exactly what you were just saying. Travis, for me, it could go back into what I was just saying about Britain. It's a symbol. If we can't get his contract tied down, it's a symbol of something. Now, is that a symbol of the club's changed negatively because we just can't tie down our so-called best players, or is the new thing that it's a symbol of change positively? So, like I say, we're changing this ethos. We're trying to get younger, smarter. We're trying to get a bit of, we want the hard work, but we want a bit of personality. We want speed. We want strength. We want all these things that we're starting to see with some of the signings that we're. The Travis thing, I can kind of get. Tronstad, I think he's got something to offer. I mean, you pointed out last year, there was times where it was obvious he was a massively important part of what we did, and he was the unsung hero. So I would, if I wanted to get the two of the three signed, I think it would be Hyam and Tronstad.
Yeah, I mean, I can see the logic though. If they're, I think Hyam's got to have a big season to convince me that he is irreplaceable. I think the fact is he was irreplaceable last year is because he played every minute of every game, and none of the other centre halves were capable of doing that. I think Hedges falls into the category of he'll do for a year, but they probably want to upgrade. I think when we've looked at them all, Travis and Tronstad, I think, struggle without the other one alongside them. And that tells you that they're missing something. We don't get enough numbers in terms of goals from our centre halves. They just don't. We don't get enough goals from centre midfield. We don't get enough goals from out wide, and we don't get enough goals from our number 10. So that's got to be fixed, because at the minute we have been relying on, I mean, going into this season, we've talked about this numerous times. We are relying on Yuki Ohashi or Maktar Gay or somebody just appearing. Let's say it could be Cogbo from the left wing going and getting us 20 goals. Because right now, I think we've got less than 20 championship goals. Don't quote me on it. But I think when I looked, we've got less than 20 championship goals. Take Gay and Ohashi out of the team from the rest of the team. Well,
it's not good enough.
It's not, and it's been like that for a long time, hasn't it? So we've got to sort that, because it puts too much pressure. I know Armstrong's pulled us out the poop, Dak pulled us out the poop, Brereton Diaz pulled us out the poop, Smodics did. But that season, Smodics scored not enough goals from everywhere else. And that there wasn't really last year either. Vyman was probably second top scorer, wasn't he, with about 8. It's not good enough. So when you're looking at
what's really difficult for
approach,
me and you as well is we're looking at these players and that are signing, and we don't know anything about them. So we're trying to speculate, have we improved or not? And it's really difficult, because some of the names you said there, like Armstrong, we kind of knew what we was getting, but there was some risk factor with some of those signings, and we didn't really know much about them, and they ended up becoming big players. So it is difficult for us to sit here and kind of predict, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think that's why I've spoken about it for a long time. It's about actions now. And the only way we are going to be able to judge this is in the end of the season, is 2 years' time. If they do think Travis, Tronstad, Hyam, Hedges, Britain are replaceable, prove it to us. And time will tell. And they're not going to get them all right. I think that's my worry. When you are trying to pull effectively rabbits out the hat, they're not all going to be ready to go. They're not all going to be successes. In 12 months' time, right now, if nobody renews their contract, they are relying on Carter being fit all season, probably bringing another centre-half in, Montgomery being ready to step into midfield and Tavares, Henriksen being ready to take the number 10 role long-term, Cogbo being ready to start, and Miller or Alibi also hitting the ground running. Plus, then they still need to go and bring a right winger in. So there's a lot of ifs there, isn't there? And a lot of unknowns, which brings some excitement. But the problem that we've got as Rovers fans is we've had 15 years now of false dawns, and we've seen this before, and it's never quite worked. So we're probably a little bit more sceptical than other clubs might be. I think that's what's the problem is with the fan base as a whole, really. Our evidence base, albeit Adam Owen so far has signed Toth with Gusted, signed Toth, an upgrade. We have seen Diniv, looks like he's going to settle in quite well. Ribero's come through the door. The people that we've actually seen come and play have probably been first-team quality. Ohashi, Gay have been an upgrade on Sam Gallagher and whatever else we had. Not obviously in Smodics, Cantwell's case. But I think some of those signings were probably from Eustace. But I think if you look at our evidence base before them, which is what we do as fans, we're not convinced. I think if you look at the evidence base on what we've seen so far over the last 12 months, I think, to be fair to them, they deserve a shot at it.
Definitely. And we have made these signings. And what's difficult, like I said, for us is we don't know a hell of a lot about them. They are coming from different leagues, and we can Google as much as we want, but you don't know. The proof is in the pudding after seeing them after a few games. And the good thing is that once the transfer window closes, we will review all the signings, and we'll hopefully have a body of work that we can actually discuss about these players, so we can start to say a little bit more about them, whether we do feel like they've been an upgrade or not. Because the one thing I've said over the last couple of weeks, and well, something we've discussed over the last year or two, is it always feels like it's just constant bandages over wounds. So a player leaves and we're just trying to find someone to scramble and get them in, and sometimes we get lucky and it is an upgrade. Most of the time we're just hoping that it's a like for like replacement ability wise. Now, looking at the signings that we've made, and this is one thing I did want us to talk about, is are we preparing the squad now with better contracts, with better ages for that sell-on, like you were saying, with a bit more physicality, that better sell-on situation? Because let's talk about the signing. So Axel Henriksen's come in. He's 23. He's replaced Weimann, you could say, who was 33. Lewis Miller's come in, who's 24. Replaced Callum Britain, who was 27. Dion Denive, I would say, is Dolan's replacement, and he is a year older than Dolan, but he's 24. Alibiosu, 23. You could argue and say he replaced JRC, who's 25. McLaughlin, 28 years old, replacing Bart, who's 34. And then you've got Sidney Tavares, who's 23. Technically, he hasn't actually replaced anyone, but let's just compare him to Mark and Day, for example, who's also 23. So let's take all these ages into account. So the average age of the new signings is 24, and the average age of those that have left is 27. I think it's about 27 and a half. So you're already bringing the average age down. Then I start to look at these players, and they all seem to have a little bit more physicality about them. Like you said, they all seem to be taller. So there's going to be people calling me out for not saying about Forshaw, but Forshaw's technically a renewal, and I know people will say I'm just not using him because it doesn't fit my narrative. Well, cope. So it is very much bringing the average age down and seeing some difficult some positions of need sorted, but it does seem like we've actually done some like for like replacements. We've improved with age and we've improved the physicality. Now the question is going to be, from a technical side, from a production side, have we going to have improved? And we will hopefully see over the next few weeks with that. But the one thing I was going to say is the owners seem to have spent around 5 million. We're bringing in around 4.5, something like that. I hate these undisclosed fees. It's an absolute bane of our lives, isn't it? Because we'd love to talk in a bit more detail. But is this now a case of we're now happy to let players walk because we're willing to take a risk on these players, and we are trying to create that new ethos and younger, more physical team?
I think they are making business decisions. Yeah. I think they're making decisions around what they want for the profile of the player. And if Lewis Travis was irreplaceable and they couldn't find somebody for the money it's going to cost them to renew him, they would renew him. But I think they are looking at a resale value. And one thing that they've talked about is they've got to fit the profile of the position they want. And people who will have watched the preview will listen to Chris talking about Ismaël, and Chris is adamant Ismaël probably won't be here in a year's time because he says he could start a fight in an empty room, and he doesn't last 12 months. But this isn't about Ismaël. I think Eustace was the departure from the project, if you like. He was the one who wanted tried and tested, playing the same players every week, relying on experience. Actually, we've gone back to what Broughton wanted, really, which was younger players, longer contracts, higher resale, and then sell them and then move for the same thing again, which is not something that we've done as a club when we bought, not necessarily age-wise, but Santa Cruz was the same kind of thing. Benny McCarthy was the same thing. Bellamy was the same thing. We've done that for years. It's just you need to see the body of work from those people who are doing that to see that it works. One of the other things they wanted to do, and they looked at elements of the squad that have been missing. One thing that they wanted was somebody who can have a long throw. Have we got people who are dangerous from set pieces? All these little nuances that it just, 2 years ago, we were terrible at set pieces. And that wasn't just because of the way that we were not training them on the training ground. They will have been doing the work on the training ground. Maybe that could have been better. Maybe it couldn't. But actually, the profile of our players, I remember West Brom turning up at Ewell Park that first game of the season. They had Daniel Furlong, captain, who was about 6'3" and built like a brick house. They had a long throw from him, and as soon as he went 2-0 up, he took about 4 weeks to take every throw in with a towel. But we never did that, did we? We never housed other teams. Then Eustace brought a bit of it, but what he can't bring is 2 or 3 inches onto players. I'm sure they'd rather do that themselves. But he can't just go and make them a threat in the box. He can't make Sam Gallagher anticipate the ball. People have tried, and they can't. My friend went to watch him at Stoke at weekend and said he's still saying Sam Gallagher. He still reacts rather than, wants to get ahead of the game. But then you go and bring Matt Targay in, who does that. So I think there is a deliberateness to what they're doing. It's just whether it works. And not every one of them's going to work. But right now, I look at the ones they brought in, and I'm not classing all the signings last year as theirs. Danny Bart was not their signing. That environment was definitely a Eustace signing, as we've seen. So was Dion Sanderson. But Toth, I think, was their signing. Owen Beck, possibly a mix, but worked. I think Cogbo, the jury's out, but I class him as a signing for this season, really. I think they brought him in early to bed him in. I think Campwell, I'm not classing as their signing either. So I think theirs are Toth or Hashi and Gay. They're the ones I'm looking at from them really last year. And for me, they've been an upgrade. And I'm willing to run with what they've done. I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt. And it's not just about Ismaël, was my point. If Ismaël goes out the door, the next manager will now fit in line with this. It will not be we've got to rebuild. We've had to do a bit of a rebuild, whether you agree with it or not, because Eustace wanted a different profile of football and a different style of football. That's why we're having to do a bit of a rebuild, and that's where some of this is coming from. Whether you agree with that or not, that's what's happening.
Yeah, it was like we changed direction far too much with Eustace, and now they're like, well, actually, we preferred the previous guy and how he was doing things, and we've gone back to that. I'm being quite positive about some of the signings. I think the ones we've spoken about, Gay was one that I called out as someone that I wasn't a massive fan of, and we had a bit of a discussion. Make a Wish Gay, Make a Wish Matar, I think I called him, and he had a spell of being very solid. Now going forward, is he going to be part of the plans? There's rumours that he could be sold. It was something that we discussed as one of the players that we could be surprised to see leave. And now he's been linked with a move that could mean that he does leave. I actually feel like if we got a decent amount for him, then yes, I'd quite happily see him go. But I actually quite like him as a plan B. I don't think he is the plan A. But like you said, he comes on, he's a big lad, and he's willing to put his body on the line at the back and at the front. So I don't want to see Gay leave unless we're making a decent amount for him and we're going to bring someone else in. I mean, I want Harry Leonard to get his shot over Gay, if I'm being honest. I want it to be Hashi's the number one, Leonard's my number two, and Gay's just the wild card that we can bring on. How disappointed would you be to see Gay leave if it was just for what we made for what we spent on him, for example?
I think that will leave us short of a plan B. I think that's the problem. I completely agree with you. I think Hashi's going to fit into Ismaël's style of play. Ironically, Chris at Albion felt Gay would be nailed on as Ismaël's style of player. He said he always wants a big man who can run in behind, and obviously ripped into shreds at the Hawthorns last year, but that's not been the case. It looks like Gay just doesn't quite fit his style of football. But if Gay's okay with being a plan B, and that plan B doesn't always mean off the bench, there'll be games where we might need to sit in and actually we need to hit him long, then great, because I think he's very effective at that. I agree with you. I think Leonard, I hope, and I also think fits more into the style of football that Ohashi does. So I think that's a logical one. But I think if Gay just if he goes, for me, we have to then be spending the money on bringing in a direct piece of competition for Ohashi. And I'm not sure we'll get that. So I'd be disappointed with it. I think, I don't think he's going to be important to Pape, but I think Make-A-Wish Maktar might not be there either. I think we'll have some middle ground with him. But yeah, it'd be a shame if he left as well, because he provides some entertainment, doesn't he?
Yeah, and as much as I slated him, it wasn't for his personality, it wasn't for his work ethic or anything like that. It was just, I wanted, if you're going to give a big lad a number 9 shirt, I wanted him to be a little bit more clinical than what he was. Yeah. I wanted to see a little bit something different from him. I want to see some different instincts, and they weren't quite there. I still think he was an upgrade to Sam Gallagher, but everyone knows my opinions on Sam Gallagher.
I agree.
But the Gay one, these rumours of him going, if it was a case of like Talalovic, where we just kept the receipt and got our money back, Talalovic I was a little bit disappointed with, because I felt like he wasn't really given an opportunity to shine, and he potentially could have done. But with Gay, I do think that plan B or C is something that it's a positive for us to have. I think if I was a defender on the 80th minute after having Ohashi run at me and then Gay comes on, I'll be like, oh shit, what have I got to deal with now? And I think, like you say, if he's happy to, why not?
But I think there's still something to work there, because he's still got the raw materials, hasn't he? He's not slow. He could well. I mean, I've not seen a great deal of progression in him in 12 months, but he could well become the ultimate number 9 for Ismaël. I'm not saying the ultimate number 9 in world football. I'm not being that ridiculous. But if in terms of he's big, he's strong, he can get in behind, if he can learn to finish and be a bit calmer as well, he could well force his way into it. I've just not seen, I'm basing it off what I've seen in the last 12 months, and I've not seen that much from him in terms of progression. But you're absolutely spot on. And I think at weekend, I think it will be the team that it's pretty much been in pre-season. I think Cardboard will stay on the bench. And I think part of the reason is when you have had a pre-season and you match fitness not fully there, in the 70th minute, 65th minute, if you bring Cardboard and Gay on and you've been battered in a different way for 60 minutes of running in behind or Denive's been dropping in, the last thing you want is a blistering pace, Cardboard, and Gay, who's going to give you, his all arms, legs, he's going to give you no peace, he's going to win the ball in the air. You're going to think, oh, geez, I think it's a really, really, really strong plan B, and I like it.
And players need to understand that when it comes to being a professional footballer, you might not play every single minute, you might not start. And I mean, look at the old Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. He was the super sub, wasn't he? He'd come on and he'd give something slightly different and get his goals. Now, obviously, Gay's not going to be to that level, but there is a role for him. The only thing is about these ESC slots, and I think this is something we might need to talk about when the window closes, because I mean that Mafumbi and so on. There's a lot of conversation about these ESC slots, and I think Gay's got one of them, has he?
I think so. I know we've used them all, and effectively, for those who don't know, they are when you can't get a work permit and you just slot into because of Brexit and whatnot. You have 5 slots that you can allocate places to, and we've allocated all 5. And Mafumbi, who's not set the world alight yet, he went on loan last season and got an injury, so he didn't really play, has got one of them. So the conversations are around, do you get rid of him? Because some people have said loan him out. That doesn't work. You have to get rid of them permanently. You can bring somebody in, though, on loan who would take a slot up. So that's the flip side, I suppose.
It's interesting. We'll hopefully have that information later on. But that was the only thing with Gay with me, is if we are looking to make movements elsewhere, would he be one where they're like, well, you know what? He's not quite where we want him to be. And as much as we would like him to have as a plan B, it's more important we have that slot, because we're now being linked to this Koji Miyoshi. Now, he might not take up a slot because of where he's coming from, and being internationally, he might just need a work permit, but we're now being linked to him. This is literally the hour before we've recorded the podcast, so we're trying to scramble together to get a little bit more information. I've spoken to some Blues mates, and they're saying he's a brilliant player. He's lightweight. He's very, very good. He was very well liked, hard-working, very technical. In fact, it reminded me of what we was being told about Ohashi. He is experienced in the Championship. He contributed 12 goals in 44 for Blues. He would be a very solid signing. I think he would be an improvement in the position from last year being on that wing. Rumours around the £2 million mark. We don't know if this has any substance, but it seems to have got traction quite quick before recording this.
Well, I remember 12 months ago we were linked with him, and I think he worked under Eustace, didn't he, at Birmingham, and that was the logical link at the time. But maybe it wasn't. Maybe actually he just fits our radar as well. But he chose to go abroad, didn't he? But yeah, he doesn't take a work permit slot up, which has to be a consideration as well. If you've got 2 players that you're weighing up, and one needs a work permit and one doesn't, well, unfortunately, we haven't got that luxury. Or you're going to get rid of a Gay, or you're not going to bring Henriksen in, or whoever. So, yeah, I mean, he's experienced in the Championship. He was well liked, wasn't he, at Birmingham, as you've just said then. I'm all right with that, and I think his numbers were better than Tyrese Dolan's were last season, if I remember rightly. So I don't mean his last season, I mean his in the Championship. So if he's then that replacement, because we haven't got a right-sided replacement yet, then Denive's Owen Beck's replacement, I'm kind of all right with this. Yeah.
I think I would be excited, mainly because it would be one of the first signings that we've made where we've bought for the Championship with some experience that we can point at and say, do you know what? That is trying to improve. That is trying to get us to where we need to be. £2 million for us, sadly, is a lot of money. But if that is the case, and he comes in and he sets the world alight, I'm all for it. And he does fit the bill with certain things. He's not massively tall, and he's not massively muscular. So there's a certain aspect of not fitting what Ismaël has wanted. But at the end of the day, he's contributed goals, and that's exactly what you just said. That's what we've needed. We can't keep having players coming in that are, solid. Well, not necessarily solid players, but just there to be they're slightly risky, and they're just there to kind of make up the numbers. We need to actually be looking for players that are actively making the first team better, and it sounds like this lad could be him.
Yeah, I think he will be a signing to come in and make an immediate impact, wouldn't he? He's not one that we would hope for in 12 months. And I do think, as much as Hedges has had a really good pre-season, I look at our forward line, the front four, if you like, and I worry about goals. If we can bring somebody in that's going to bring goals and assists, Henriksen seems to do on paper, but it's a very different level, and it's a massive ask to do it right now. Maybe not so much when you've been playing in the Championship. I think that's somebody that you could say, that lad I expect to come in and get me 15 goals and assists.
And Hedges, you've mentioned him. I think he's got a massive season ahead of him for his career more than anything else.
Yeah.
As much as I was a big fan of him, he's not kicked on for various reasons, and maybe he needs someone in front of him that we can push him and try and be better. I don't know, but he's definitely someone that needs to step up this year for the sake of his own career.
Absolutely. He needs to be going and getting... The game is about numbers. He needs to go and get some goals and assists. But it sounds like Mayoshi would be a different option as well. And I think that could well be a case of... And that's what we're trying to do. They've talked about that. They don't just want Hedges' Mark II, but a slight upgrade. What they want is different options. So when it's a different game and it calls for a different approach, you've got a different option there. And that's what we will see this season. We won't see a starting 11 just based around what the way we want to play in our style. It will be looking at the opposition and right, this is the way we're going to go in this game. And in order to be able to do that, you need good options to be able to do it. And Mayoshi would seem to fit that bill. So yeah, I'm all for it.
Yeah, and the squad's getting younger. I think we're making some positive steps now, but it's definitely something we need to break down a bit later on because it's very difficult for us to break it down now because there's still a lot that can change to do with these ESC slots that could change, players potentially leaving, players potentially coming in. There's a lot that can happen over the next few weeks. So we will break it down. The one thing that I was disappointed with is our oldest player is 33 and was born in 1991. And we're getting very close now to players being born in just the 2000s in our whole squad. And it's starting to disappoint me. In the next few years, I think we're going to have a squad that was just born in the 2000s. And that's going to really upset me. But anyway, we'll move on from that. So, Mark... We've now got our predictions. Now, these are the blind predictions for the season. We haven't seen much. So what have we got? I'm going to let you take the lead on this one.
Yep. So we have gone with some EFL predictions as well as Rovers-based ones. But for the top two, we have gone remarkably similar with a lot of these as well. Mike, you've gone Ipswich and Leicester. I've gone Ipswich and Southampton. I've looked at the depth of their squad. I think Ipswich have kept the bulk of their squad. They've got Sammy Smodics who'll get... I mean, if they don't play him in the number 10 role, we talked about him to death. He won't get as many goals as he did for us, but he will get goals for them. I think they've got experience. I think they've got Championship know-how. I think they built a side last year that was able to come down and keep the bulk of it together. I know they've lost Dilap. I know they're probably losing Hutchison. I think they've got enough, and I think they've got an experienced manager, and they've kept enough of the core. I think they will go back up as champions. I think they're set to hit the ground running. I also look at Southampton. They've not lost that many. Will Still is an unknown. I'm not somebody who just buys into his hype and thinks, oh yeah, he's been a football manager legend, so he's going to come in, as much as... I am also a football manager legend. But I think I look at Southampton and I think they've got Brereton Diaz. They've got Adam Armstrong. They've got some very experienced and good footballers, and they've kept a lot of them. So right now I've gone for them. You've gone for Leicester?
Yeah, I just feel like they're built. They're built to get up there. I was slightly worried with the Southampton Sheffield United. I've seen a lot to do with people saying they think they may fall away at some point. Southampton was definitely up there for me with Sheffield United. Ipswich, I just felt like they built themselves to bounce back. Exactly what you
Yeah.
just said. They didn't buy to stay up in the Premier League. They bought to get themselves in that boing situation like West Brom
Yeah.
used to do, where they can, if they came down, everyone kind of knew their role. It's like, okay, you're gonna have a go in the Premier League, but we are going to be absolutely prepared to jump back when we're relegated. But I think it's going to be a real strong championship this year. I think it's going to be very
Mhm.
difficult.
I agree. The reason I didn't go for Leicester is there's potential talk of a points deduction. And I've looked at their squad, and I think they've been decimated a little bit. And they weren't that good last year. I don't know, Southampton were appalling, but a lot of that's to do with Russell Martin. And we know my thoughts on him. But I think Leicester, I just think they may struggle. I do. Yeah. My only thing, because some people are talking about them plummeting, is I do think Leicester have got a fantastic manager. Cifuentes is a really good manager. He is. He kept QPR. For those who don't know about his work at QPR, if you look at how much QPR spent in the last few years, I think their net spent something around £1 million over the last couple of years, and he kept them up on an absolute shoestring. So I backed him to not plummet, which some people are predicting, but yeah, I didn't have them in the top two. So we move on to our playoffs. Again, a couple of common themes. We've both gone Sheffield United. We've both gone Coventry. I've gone Callum Britain and I've gone Norwich. So Norwich have had a massive turnover. They've lost Sargent, they've lost Borja Sait, but they spent an absolute ton of money on what they're really back. And they've got quite a good structure in place that they keep stable and they know who they're investing it on. So I don't think it's just a blind panic situation. So I've gone for them. And Middlesbrough, I probably put Middlesbrough in there every year, and I think Callum Britain's seen something, so I'm going to go with it. But I'm not convinced by Middlesbrough at all. I just went on the basis that, well, it's got to happen at some point. Coventry, wasn't so sure about Frank Lampard, if I'm being honest. But I think based on the body of work that he had there last year and based on the fact they are built slowly, I had to put them in. And Sheffield United have just... You don't know what you're going to get from them, I think, this year. They've lost Almedovic, haven't they, this week? I think he went yesterday as we're recording this on Wednesday. But I just think the gap's that big from the Premier League to the Championship that they're going to still get their way into the playoffs. So what were your thought processes here? I love the fact West Brom are in yours. I love it. Without turning Kevin Keegan.
So this all comes around from my Leicester prediction because my Leicester prediction's a little bit of a wild card. I just got a feeling they're going to build something this year and sneak into that. If not, I think Sheffield United or Southampton are going to run away and be part of that top three, top four situation. Coventry, exactly what you said. I think they've built quite nicely. I'm not actually a big fan of Coventry as a team. In fact, they're one of the ones that I have a little bit of a dislike for, and I'm not too sure why. I think it's because my company's headquarters is there, and when I travel there, I just don't like the place. But anyway, so West Brom, they've just gone about their business. I just get a feeling they're going to make a little bit of a step. I think they're going to make a little bit of a step and be solid. I think this is where we're going to have a lot of clubs that are going to be looking for those final two playoff spots. And I just get the feeling West Brom are going to be the ones that sneaks in there. I'll be honest, I don't really follow the rest of the EFL in a lot of detail because all my time just goes into Rovers 100%. But from what I've seen and what I'm hearing, I just feel like West Brom have gone about their business quite well this year.
Yeah, I just I didn't quite have them getting in the playoffs, but I think I'm just not buying into this same narrative every year that the Championship's going to be even stronger. I think there's going to be some. I think you might well have an Ipswich run away with it, maybe Southampton or whoever go with them quite a big distance. But I think it'll be similar to last year. I think there'll be a big quadrant of teams but could well get in the playoffs. So we move on to relegation, and we've gone very similar. So we've both gone Sheffield Wednesday. I think anyone who doesn't have them in, they may well stay up. But if you're not predicting them in there right now, there's something wrong with you. They're an absolute basket case. They could have points deductions. They've got embargoes. I feel very, very sorry for their supporters, if I'm being honest. And Oxford, I thought they surprised me last year. I don't think they've particularly strengthened massively. I've just based it on the fact that you can get away with it for 1 year, and I don't think they will again. They relied on their home form, but it's not a fortress like Portsmouth. And I went QPR, so that was on the basis of the fact they've spent absolutely the grand total of naff all over the last few years, and Cifuentes isn't there. So I've gone on the basis that it would be a little bit like why some teams are predicting us to go down, because Eustace pulls rabbit out the hat, and I think their rabbit out the hat is gone for me. And you've gone.
Yeah, the magic's run out.
And you've gone for, Mike?
Oh, yeah, sorry. So I was just reading my notes a little bit before. So same as you, Sheffield Wednesday feels. I don't want any club to be run like they've run. I've seen these things happen. I mean, there's a couple of clubs I wouldn't mind being run that bad, but yeah, I think it's a shame what's happened there, and I think they'll just be at the bottom. Oxford, I do know some coaches there. I've spoken to some. They're not first team coaches, don't get me wrong, and some of the things they've been saying is the club's not going in the direction they'd hoped. They had a really good run to get where they got, and they've peaked, and like any roller coaster, they're now on the way down, and I think that'll be part of that. And Preston, I just think it's about time they went down. I think I think they've been a team that has built their squads around being big, strong, trying to bully people, and I just think their time's run out, and I think they'll get dragged into relegation.
I was toying between them and QPR, if I'm being honest. I fully agree with you, and I think I'd be very upset. We've gone down the route of data, we've gone down the route of scouting, down the route of risk. And some people will be in favour of that, some won't. They've gone down the route of bang average, and they've filled their team with just rubbish. So, sorry, Preston fans. I could see that happening as well. Right, so we're going on to Rovers. Now, the interesting thing is here, Mike, we've done these and we've not spoken to each other. Yesterday, I had Rovers down as 10th. And after watching the NEC game, and I've had them down as 10th all pre-season, the NEC game, I know you shouldn't get torn on it. It just brought into focus for me. And I'm not panicking after one game, pardon the meme. But I am just looking at, I can see when it won't work, when we've got a lack of goals, when we've got a lack of creativity, and you can easily go on a bit of a bad run then. And I spun us from what I think our positive thing could be, which I thought was 10th, to actually, I think this might just fall the other side of the coin. That was the only reason. Your 10th reasoning?
So originally, Baldy's bold prediction was that we was going to finish in the playoffs, and I put that out on X. I said that was going to be my bold prediction, was going to finish in the playoffs. But then suddenly I decided to put my sensible head on. Now, the JDT era, we were sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit. Insert meme here. We was all or nothing. I've got a feeling we're going to be like that, but a little bit more stable.
Okay.
And I think we'll be flirting with a lower end. I think we'll be flirting lower end, and then we'll start to come good, and we'll just prod up towards the end of the season towards 10. I can see us having a decent start over the first couple of months and us being relatively happy with what we're seeing. But then I think we'll fall away gradually, and then I think we'll have our usual lull in the new year, because that's what Rovers do. And then I think we'll come back and we'll finish around 10th. That's my prediction for the season.
I completely agree with that. I think we are built. I think we need to have a good start. We've got tough 4 games. We talked about that. I think we are built as a team to fly out the blocks in every which way. and I think we have to do that. But I agree with you. And then I look at our depth and the times when the winter's biting, when injuries are biting, when the games are mounting up. I just think we've not got enough players like Derby will have, for example, like Eustace would have wanted to bring in. I don't think we've got enough of them characters to just drag you through them winter months. Doesn't mean I'm critical of our recruitment.
I feel like we'll be different opinions come the end of the window, one way or the other. I think we'll look at the squad and we'll have had a few games to judge, and I think we'll have different opinions.
Yeah, I think if we've gone off to a flying start, I'll be more 10th, 8th. If we haven't, then I will be panicking. Yeah, the meme will be coming out. Top scorer. Anyone else? Was there really anyone else you thought of?
No, we're boring.
I mean,
Yukio Hashi has to be.
I think the system's set up to play him on the shoulder. He's definitely playing more within the width of the box. His job is to get on the shoulder, and our job is to find him. I actually think Yukio Hashi could go and get 20 goals this year. I do. I think if I was, I have placed a bet on it, peek behind the curtain, because I put £2.50 each way on Yukio Hashi because I found out it was 50-1 to be top scorer. But if I had to put my mortgage on it, I think he'll get about 15 goals. But I can see a way he goes and gets 20 or more actually this year. He's bulked up a little bit as well. I think they're simplifying his game. They're playing to his strengths. I like it. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, same. I just feel like he's got that instinct. The way that we're playing, it seems to be looking at that focal point. As much as we say we want goals elsewhere, I still think that we will play with a focal point, and I think he will get goals. He will definitely make double figures, in my opinion. Whether he gets to 15 plus, I don't know. But what I want to see is us to score lots of goals, but it be spread around, and he's just the pinnacle of it.
Yeah. I could see a 20 by Christmas Brereton special coming. Impact signing. So I've gone Dion Deniv, and I think I was a bit torn with this one because normally an impact signing for me is somebody who's coming and making, obviously by the name of it, a massive impact. But I think Dion Deniv will be the one who plays the most. That's why I've gone for that. I think he's going to be a regular in the team. I think he's slotting in. He looks like he'll slot into Championship football quite well. I don't think he's going to set the world alight. I don't think he's going to be the most exciting footballer we've ever had. He's not going to be cardboard in some senses. But I do think he's going to be the one that we look back at the end of the season and have the most impact overall in terms of number of games, probably more than anything. You've gone Miller?
Yeah, I was going to go Deniv, but we couldn't agree on everything, could we? No. The reason I've gone Lewis Miller, I just have this deep feeling that he's going to be offering something more. I said earlier in the podcast that I worry about the SPL and making this step into the Championship. He just seems like he's got that attitude, he's got that passion, he's got that raw ability where actually he could be someone that slots in and replaces Callum Britain and maybe even becomes an upgrade. That's my hope. I said that if he can come in and we don't even think about the fact that right back's an issue, I'm happy. But at the time I made this decision, we haven't seen Sydney Tavares, so he could be an impact signing, but we haven't seen anything of him. So right now, I think it's between these two, and I've just sneaked Lewis Miller.
Yeah, he's definitely got more strings to his didgeridoo than Britain. Overachiever. Look at this. We are two in sync. Why have you gone Scott Wharton?
Simple fact, I expected nothing from him. And I know that sounds really, really harsh. He was a player that if the club had released him and said, thank you very much, I wouldn't have been surprised. But the fact that he's come back from this injury, there was a big thing on social media about how he's come back from it, and he just seems like a different person. He seems positive. He's always smiling. He seems absolutely delighted to put on a Rovers kit every single day. And he's, like you said, pre-season, he's actually offered something. And Hayden Carter, he doesn't look like he's going to be someone that's going to remain fit. McLaughlin, we don't know much about, but I would have thought he's going to be a starter. Hyam, he was Mr. Iron Man last year, but there's going to need to be some rotation, and I think Scott Wharton's going to play way more than we expect.
Yeah, I think pretty much the same as you, to be fair. I based it on the fact that going into pre-season, I didn't know if Scott Wharton would be fit enough to play at the beginning of the season. And I actually think from the performances and fitness has not been a concern at the moment. I think performances-wise, he's shown he's good with his left foot as well, isn't he? I do worry about him on the turn. I think that is a concern. But the fact that we're playing the left back really narrow on almost a 3, and he's then cushioned inside, I think really suits him. And he's good with his left foot. He's good at distributing. He's going to be the one pinging the ball out to Lewis Miller down that right-hand side as he throws the ball into Ohashi. So I think, yes, Scott Wharton, come on. Underachiever. Ooh.
Yours could be controversial with my mate Augustus there. Why have you gone Augustus?
Because I think he's got. I think I don't want to liken him to anybody because then you end up just comparing them all the time. But I think he's a player in the squad, and we've not many of these that's got the X factor. I think he's got a player that I look at and I could see if everything, the stars align, he's a £10 million footballer. He's going to the Premier League. And I just don't know if it's going to happen. I don't know if he's going to force his way into the starting 11. I have seen glimpses in pre-season again. I was hoping he's had 6 months to bed in, and we saw some glimpses against Wolves and things like that. And then I've seen him overrun the ball too often. I've seen his final ball be poor. I was hoping he'd come back pre-season and he'd be nailed on for that left-hand side of midfield. And he's not for me. For me, I think we still need to move him to the right. I think ultimately he should be on the left. But then against NEC, he cuts inside and kills a beautiful, beautiful ball into that top corner. And that's what I need to see more of from him. But I just think he might be a bit hot and cold.
Yeah, no, I've gone for Hayden Carter. I'm worried about his injuries. We discussed about how he's a potential Premier League player. Newcastle have been sniffing around him the last couple of years. He's got the size. He's got the ability. There's a lot that he offers to the club. I'm just worried he's not going to stay fit. I don't know what it is. I've moaned about the strength and conditioning in the past. Maybe he's being protected a little bit, and they're being a little bit cautious. But for me, I just worry that he's not going to achieve. And the only reason I put him here is because I expect so much from him. And it's not like a Dolan situation. I think if he's on the pitch, I think he will do everything that he needs to. And I think he'll do it well. It's just getting him on the pitch.
Completely agree. I mean, I tipped him last year, I think it was, to be the next one to make his way into the Premier League. So I was close to putting Hayden Carter. The other one for me that could have gone in either category was Todd Cantwell. Because he could be an overachiever because he could go and set the world alight, and he could do what he did last year in terms of numbers, and that will be an underachievement. But I put for cardboard. Player of the year. So I've gone based on goals. I know Rovers fans are notorious for picking a hard, tough tackling fullback, and we seem to prefer them. I think Adam Armstrong was the one, wasn't he, who went to get however many goals and didn't get Player of the Year once. It's happened before. We've had Derek Williams get it. We've had Callum Davidson got Player of the Year one year. We've had, I could see it being a Lewis Miller or something ridiculous, but I just thought, I don't think many players will be shining this year. And if they do, the 20-odd goals of Yuki Ohashi. My only worry with it, Mike, is we have that recency bias, and I think Ohashi's going to have 20 goals in the bag by Christmas, so then he might tail off a bit. So that's my concern. There's my get out of jail free card.
Well, Ohashi was definitely one of the ones I thought about, same reasons that you said. I think he's well loved by the fans, by the players. He puts in the effort, and that's a big thing for fans. If you just put in the effort and you're professional with how you go about yourself, I think that's a major thing with fans. But the reason I've gone for Augustus, my mate, I understand with what you're saying, but I think the stars will align. and I think
Come
we've
on.
seen glimpses of some real talent. I think he has that pace to make up for any deficiencies he has.
Yeah.
So if he's got a slightly bad touch, I think he's got that quickness to get the ball back. We saw last year how he can just pop the ball down the wing and really go for it. I think he's going to have learnt more of the league last year, and I just get that feeling that whilst you're saying Ohashi could tail off, I think Garpo could be one that actually towards the end of the season really starts to play into what we need. And everyone loves a player that is exciting on the wing, that's got a bit of pace. And I think he'll be one that will finish the season nice and strong, and he'll become player of the year. Well, another one was Toth. He was one that I was thinking. And the reason why I was thinking Toth is because we've had such a bad run over the last couple of years of goalkeepers that if he just makes a few saves, he'll get it.
A bit like Kaminsky. Kaminsky came at the perfect time for any half-decent goalkeeper, didn't he? He came after some absolute dog mess. I'll be honest though, Mike. If Augustus Cargbo is player of the year, then he won't be with us next year, because his player of the year level will be way above what Ohashi's is. It'll be, player of the year. He'll be one of the stars of the league, I think, if he does that.
Yeah, he's got the traits where Premier League or real top end teams will be looking at and spending some decent money, and you are going to cash in.
Yeah, wonderful. I hope you're right. I so hope you're right. But I hope you're right even more with this one.
So young player of the year, I'm predicting Harry Leonard. I was thinking Montgomery. I was thinking Tijon. It's difficult this year because the last year or two we haven't really put our young players out there since Eustace came in, and obviously Ismaël has had to just deal with what he's had. I think that Leonard is going to get some game time. I think he's going to get goals. I think his instincts, his movement, the way he presses, everything about him, I think shows that a player that can really step up and become a very good championship player. Hopefully better than that. I think at his age, he can develop well. So I just want to, if he can get himself fit, I think he'll get game time. And I think if he gets game time, he'll be in with a shout.
I really hope so, because I think it's a make or break season in some senses for Harry Leonard. This is a tough one because I'd love it to be Harry Leonard, because I think that means that he's exactly what we hope he will be, and he's on the right trajectory once again. It tends to not go to a new player, even if they are young, so I immediately ruled them out. Do you know the one that I almost went for was Nick Michalski? I thought just if Toth gets an injury or something like that, I could see him coming in and really impress him. He's got the raw attributes to be a top level goalkeeper. I'm not saying he's there yet, but he is one of them that, whereas I think Toth's a 7 out of 10, I think we could have the next David Raya potentially on our hands in terms of this boy, if he comes in and does it, will be, he's got the attributes to be top level. But I've gone for Christy Montgomery. I think he will end up towards the end of the season starting in the centre of midfield.
Yeah, I could see it. Especially if Travis and Tron still haven't sorted their contract situations.
Yeah,
and we're starting to move on. If we've got a season that's petering out and not coming to anything, I could see him making some appearances there. Obviously, we've only really seen him at right back. He was definitely one I was thinking of, but I just keep thinking right back with him. I don't think centre mid, because that's all I've really seen him there. And obviously, we go and make 2 signings. You just think, well, he's not going to play as much.
I've seen him a lot at 21s, to be fair, and he's, for me, he's more of he's like a tougher tackling Tronstad. He's not at that level yet, but I think the transition period will start, and I think he will be in our centre midfield for a while to come. I don't think he's a right back for what it's worth. I think he's done a decent job there because they play so high up. Okay, and weird prediction. So weird prediction last year, Mike. I'm just going to take that off the screen for a split second. So can you remember yours last year?
I tried to look back, but I haven't had time to look to find it. What was? Do you know what it was?
I couldn't find it. But mine 2 years ago.
Oh, I think I think I have remembered it, actually. You do yours.
Go on. So mine 2 years ago was that we would have 3 managers within 12 months, and we actually had 3. I think we did it in the new year when we were on Rovers chat, and we had 3 before the end of the bloody season. So that was then. And then what was yours last year?
I think mine was Ohashi, Gay, and Campbell have more goal involvements than Gallagher had in his career, or something like that for us.
Oh, it was.
It was something like that.
I'll tell you what, that'll be close as well. We need to find that out. Yeah.
I don't think it was. I think Campbell let me down.
Bloody hell. I had that Eustace would not be with us by the end of the season, but he would go to a team that should be above us. So like a Leeds or something that are underperforming. I didn't expect it to be Derby, I'll be honest. Right, so here we go. So what we're saying is we've got 4. So I've gone all 5 midfielders still at the club from last year. So I've gone Travis, Tronstad, Buckley, Forshaw, and Campbell will not be at the club in 12 months' time.
Interesting. Mine's a little bit more boring than that, and it's just Scott Wharton plays more than Hayden Carter this year.
Right. So I've had to do one for the not that I'm plugging this, but I do a little bit for the Lancashire Telegraph with Elliot Jackson. My strange one was that, and this is where we are weirdly in sync, Mike. I said that Scott Wharton would captain the team more times than Lewis Travis this year.
Interesting.
Because I was thinking of the same thing as you. Yeah. So, yeah.
No, interesting. I like that one. Well, if anyone else has any weird predictions, make sure you put them down in the comments for us, because there are some. I was going to try and figure out a goal scoring one, but I find these really difficult until I've seen a little bit more.
Yeah,
I mean, I know that the whole point of this is that we're supposed to be doing it wild, but if I was to know the exact squad, so like the Harry Leonard situation, all these, I don't know who's going to get loaned out, and so on and so forth. I mean, it wasn't Jake Garrett Young Player of the Year once, and he hardly played, or something like that. So I find some of them really difficult. But the weird prediction, I was on my flight home, and I was just thinking, I just couldn't get out of my head that I just feel like Scott Wharton's going to play a lot more than we think he is. I just get a feeling Hayden Carter's not going to play anywhere near as much.
I hope that bit's wrong. But so we've gone 1 to 24. So we'll not go through them in a great bit of details. But one thing that I have noticed, Mike, you've gone Derby County in 14th. I've gone for Birmingham and Derby to finish above us. I've gone for Leicester to just miss out on the playoffs. I have gone Preston just above the relegation. We've all got both of us got Charlton staying up. That for me is the Nathan Jones factor. I don't want to play them. I'm not looking forward to that. But we've gone Wrexham 13th, both of us as well. Wrexham, not fancy them for promotion?
No. I feel like the business they've done is to solidify themselves in the Championship.
Yeah.
They've gone and got Kiefer Moore, who was someone who I would have liked at Rovers previously, but after seeing him play the last year, probably not. I just feel like their business has been different. Blues, because obviously that's the obvious comparison right now. I feel like their business has been to actually be pushing them towards the upper end of the EFL, whereas Wrexham, I feel like they're just trying to solidify themselves a little bit. So that was my thoughts there. The Derby one, what was interesting with Derby was I've spoken to some Derby fans, because I do know the odd one, and a few of them are predicting that Eustace won't be their manager by the end of the year.
Wow. I can't say that.
So that could be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's the first time he's been backed, I suppose. You know, they've recently just brought in some some big players, haven't they? But obviously he's just signing all our rejects as well. I think the thing for Birmingham with me is you obviously have more insight into Birmingham than I do. I just feel that I think you're right. So I'll go to Wrexham first. I think Wrexham have, when they're in the National League, we're buying players from League who could play it then in League Two and League One. Then they got into League Two and they were buying players who could play it in League One. They got into League One and roller coaster, but they've not really got many Championship-ready players. So I think they're playing catch-up. Birmingham, and I don't think they've bought that many. I think they're absolutely spot on. I think they've solidified is a great word. I think Lewis O'Brien, decent footballer, not what we all thought he was going to be. Kiefer Moore, he'll keep you up. But I think Birmingham have gone big. They've gone to try and get that next level. But I think they've made so many changes. And they've got some young players in key positions. I know Beadle had a decent season, but we've got to watch out when Beadle's about, haven't you? Sorry.
Exactly. But Blues, obviously their fans didn't really understand the tongue-in-cheek post that went out.
No.
I did speak. I did have quite a few people message me. Some of it was quite funny, actually. I can't repeat it on here. I mean, I told you about the Villa fans with my Jack Grealish thing where I was having threats. That's a story for another time, but also very funny. But the thing is with Blues is I've spoken to their fans and I completely agree. I think that with Blues, if they did a double promotion, I think it'll be a situation where they're setting themselves up to fail in the Premier League. I think they needed one season to kind of prepare themselves. And I think this season, the way they've done their business and so on, I think they've set themselves to be pushing, but not too much to go to the next level. I think there's a little bit of a change that needs to be done. But you never know. You never know. And I think the promoted teams coming from League One, they're the ones that are set up most likely to actually do that double promotion. But it's a very rare thing and a very difficult thing to do. Yeah. And I just think that they're not quite ready for it. Wrexham, I think they've done the right thing. I can't stand the documentary. I think it's one of the worst football documentaries out there for the Wrexham one. So I haven't really watched it in too much detail. But from what I can see is they're being very well advised and that they're trying to do things properly. And I'm not against them. It's not like some teams where they suddenly get money and they go and you just want them to fail. It does seem like they're being very well advised. I just think they're going to be mid-table. But I do think that there's going to be some teams that are going to be really struggling this year that haven't been struggling. Sorry, that have struggled the last couple of years, and I think their time could be running out. And when I was picking off that bottom six, that I think someone's going to run out, and one of them was Watford, and we both have that difference with Watford. I've got them as nearly getting relegated. You've got them into the 11th position. For me, Watford, there's something not quite right with Watford, and I feel like they're going to get dragged back down.
Yeah, I'm a little bit more convinced by their business, and I think that they will make changes if needed, as we all know. I think they'll be okay. I think, I'll be honest, that bottom bunch of teams, I don't think Charlton will just because of their manager, but I could see them going. I could see Preston going. I could see Portsmouth going. I could see Swansea going. I could see Stoke going. I think it's between them. But in terms of Birmingham, I mean, obviously we got a bit of stick last week, didn't we? And it was tongue-in-cheek, really. But I also found that I'll be honest, I didn't actually know they even had a documentary until some of the comments were flying at us. So if we're in it, great. Hi. Sam Smith here. But I looked at their signings and Sam Smodics would get in their team and a number of Ipswich would. Adam Armstrong would get in their team. Diaz would get in the team. A significant number of Southampton's would. A significant number of Coventry's team would. Boroughs, Norwich, Sheffield United, Leicester. And that's what I based it on. I think the jump from the League One to the Championship is massive. And I think you're absolutely spot on. They've got the best chance of anybody who's coming up. But they're also, because of FFP and PNS, sorry, you've not got the massive money to spend compared to someone like an Ipswich. Southampton have just got 30 million for dibbling near enough, and that'll go back out the door. I just think they're fishing in a slightly different pond, and I think some of that's to do with the restrictions. But they've got Jay Stansfield, they've not got Adam Armstrong. I just think they've not got enough yet. And I was quite surprised by the arrogance. But I also think they've not kept enough of a core of quality teams. So when we came up from League One, Dak had been there a year. Danny Graham was a good footballer at that level. And we kept the core of the team, didn't we? And then just started to improve it. And we still were nowhere near going up that season. So, yeah, I'd be surprised if they went up, but I'll be more surprised if it was Wrexham or, for the life of me now, I can't remember who's just come up.
Charlton. Is it Charlton?
Charlton. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. I think my wild card to go up is probably Leicester, which I know isn't a wild card as such, but for the automatics, that was the one I wasn't was my wild card, and the wild card to kind of break into that relegation battle was going to be Watford. What do you think your wild card for promotion would be out of your top 10, say?
Well, I've just realised Southampton for you, Mike. I've done this graphic. I told you I was tired. Southampton are finishing second and fourth for you. So Leicester, that should have been
that good.
Was second, wasn't it? My wild card, if I was going to pick somebody, top two are we talking here?
Yeah, so I've obviously put Leicester as my second, but that's really my wild card pick.
Okay.
Out of the top 10, who do you think could break that top two? That's more of a wild card than an obvious one.
Norwich.
Really?
I think that the signings they've made, they do a lot of thinking behind their signings. They've made a lot. So, like I've just said about Birmingham, I think that they'll struggle to settle in, but they've got more of a championship base behind them, which is why I've put them higher. If they're coming in at the ground running, I think they could be a pace setter almost. Ipswich and Norwich going for the top two. Oof, tasty. That massive derby where everyone sits side by side.
And out of the bottom, the potential surprise relegation, I think we've both got Stoke in our bottom six. Is that someone that you think could be pulled into that relegation zone?
Yeah, I also think we're an outside bet for it if it doesn't work. But yeah, I'm sorry. But if I was going to pick one 18 to 24, yes, I would go Stoke. I think your wild card of Preston's a good shout, though. I do.
Yeah, it's interesting, but people put their predictions down below. Obviously, we're recklessly speculating. We don't claim to be pundits. We don't claim to be journalists. We're just a couple of fans. We watch other teams where we can, but obviously it's Rovers we follow more than any others. And we've put all our predictions in there. Put yours down below. What do you think of ours? Remember, we are tired as well. Some of these were done after a couple of hours sleep. But yeah, put everything down below. But it's been over an hour and a half. We're back to form, Mark. We're back to form of doing these podcasts over the 90-minute mark. Thank you for joining me on this wild journey today.
Oh, mate, I didn't think we were going to make it at some points this week. I thought, are we going to get this record done? Where, obviously you've been doing a tour of Birmingham and the Midlands. I've been sorting out the house, sorting the utility room, tidying all my daughter's clothes. Does this fit or does it not? Dead exciting rock and roll in the Northwest. But I am very excited about the weekend. I'm going to the Hawthorns. I think we've nearly sold out. And we're going to hit the ground running. We're going to start Linford Christie out the blocks. 3-0 win, and away we go.
I hope so. And hopefully I'll be there with my son as well. Just hoping that the fixture that I'm supposed to be playing on Saturday can be moved forward. I've got a message into their coach asking, pleading with him. So hopefully that'll happen, so I can come and join you, Mark. And obviously, if anyone sees us, come say hello. Try not to be too abusive to us about how terrible we are after them Blues fans. They made me all upset, mate, by saying I was bold.
Well, yeah. I mean, I know I put a bit of timber on, but they were having a right pop at me. So I was like, oh, geez, thanks, lads. Never mind. I will live for now. Live to fight another day.
Mate. Yeah, I'm going to cry myself to sleep over those thoughts. But Mark, thanks for joining me, and I'll see you for the recording of us reviewing a nice win against West Brom.
Oh, yeah, and then we'll be previewing our cup run to Wembley against Bradford as it starts. And then we can have a nice little conversation about Birmingham and get some more abuse. Happy days. What more do you want in life?
Exactly. Perfect. Well, everyone, have a great week, and we hope you've enjoyed this bumper episode. Like I said, do all the good stuff, like, subscribe, comment down below. We do read it all, and have a great time, and we'll see you next time.